This one's called Powder. A pregnant woman named Anna is rushed to a hospital during a thunderstorm. Later, the doctor informs her distraught husband, named Greg, that Anna just didn't make it. Baby's safe, but he has albinism, a genetic condition that leaves the child without pigmentation, and his pale eyes are sensitive to light. Greg is taken to the baby where the doctors hooked him to the EEG to measure his brain waves. Greg sees his unusual appearance and cries, refusing to accept his baby. The EEG registers alarming rates of brain activity as the baby similarly gets distressed. Now Greg ultimately denounces the child as he's taken away. The crying baby's brain waves go off the charts. 20 years later, we cut the director of the local youth shelter, Jesse Caldwell, arrives at the home of a recently deceased man. Sheriff Doug Barnum asks for her help to retrieve what they believe is the man's grandson, hiding in the basement. Doug explains that the boy won't come up from the cellar and they suspect that the child might have special needs, considering he didn't report his grandfather's death. The neighbors have also never seen him, so they must have kept him a secret. Cautiously, Doug and Jesse go down and find the boy crouched in the dark. The boy, Jeremy Reed, nicknamed Powder by his grandparents, explains how he tried to help his grandfather, but Doug assures him that he's in no trouble. Jesse coaxes him out, and when he steps into the light, both she and Doug are surprised to see the pale, hairless boy. Jesse asks Doug to get him something to eat and asks Jeremy why he didn't call anyone when his grandfather fell. Jeremy says his grandfather always said people would come to take him away if he's seen. Later, Jeremy goes and tells Jesse he's never been to school, but he's read all the books in the cellar. Jesse grabs a copy of Moby Dick, commenting that college kids struggle through it. Jeremy asks her to pick a page, and when she does, he recites a paragraph from it. Jeremy tells her he knows all the books in his vast library, pleasantly surprising Jesse. Much later, Jeremy walks outside with Jesse and Doug. Police officers and neighbors stare in awe, and suddenly radios and police sirens go off, seemingly affected by Jeremy's presence. As Jesse drives away with Jeremy, Doug notices the roof lined with several lightning rods. Another officer, Harley Duncan, informs Doug that the doctors found evidence of defibrillation on the old man, suggesting that Jeremy electrocuted his grandfather. Harley's spooked by Jeremy, but Doug only dismisses him. Driving through the city, Jeremy is amazed at the sights with the car's windows. Jesse takes him to the youth shelter where other kids stop and stare at Jeremy as he passes by. Inside, Jeremy sits by Jesse's office as she arranged for him to be seen by an expert, and the other kids, they start staring at him through the windows, trying to catch a glimpse of him. Lunchtime now, and Jesse sits alone to eat while everyone else stares. A group of teens approaches him, and one of them, John, teases him for his appearance. Jeremy doesn't engage, so John taunts him further by making Jeremy put a spoon at the end of his nose. Jeremy now takes the spoon and repeatedly rolls his thumb over it, making it stand on its own. At once, all the other utensils around them are magnetized to Jeremy's spoon, creating a tower. Everyone is stunned, but a loom spoon flies off its track and slowly approaches the tower on its own until the whole thing crumbles. Jeremy grins, pleased with his exhibition. But John is even more pissed off now. Later that day, Doug arrives home as his son Steven leaves the house. Steven calls out to him, but Doug pointedly ignores Steven as they pass by each other in the yard. Upstairs, the caregiver, Maxine, says Steven stayed a while tending to his bedridden mother, Emma, and brought her a small silver box. As Doug feeds the weak Emma some mice chips, Maxine asks about the commotion at the Reed farm, expressing her disdain at the discovery of Jeremy. Dog doesn't say much, but he also doesn't share Maxine's contempt. The next day, a doctor confirms that Jeremy is in perfect health, so Jesse goes ahead and asks him if he'd like to go to school the following week. Jeremy's only concern is if his contact lenses will be ready before then. The following week, Jeremy comes to school and everyone stares at him. In science class, Jeremy catches a girl, Lindsay, looking at him while the teacher, Mr. Donald Replay, explains a lesson on electric impulses. Now check this out. Donald then presents a machine called Jacob's Ladder to show everyone how electricity travels. The machine is turned on and Jeremy gets distressed by it. A metal paper clip flies away from Jeremy's table and his pen starts spinning in place. Donald continues talking as more electric current rises higher and higher from the machine and Jeremy trembles in his seat. Suddenly an electric current shoots out of the machine and hits Jeremy in the chest, pushing him backward. Intensity lifting him out of his seat. Donald kicks the plug off as Jeremy hangs in midair, but it doesn't work, so he grabs a wooden chair and smashes the machine. Donald reaches out to an unconscious Jeremy, and once he touches him, the hairs on Donald's arms stand on end. Later in the hospital, Dog asks Donald about the incident, but the doctor doubts his story as Jeremy doesn't show any signs of electrocution. Donald continues talking and deduces that Jeremy is constantly experiencing electrolysis, hence why hair doesn't grow on him. A nurse then interrupts them with the news that Jeremy has left the hospital. Jeremy walks through the town and befriends Lindsay's dog as he passes by her house. Lindsay comes out and they talk about the incident in science class. Lindsay is genuinely friendly, making Jeremy open up and even tell her a joke. Lindsay comments on other people staring as they talk and he tells her he's able to hear other thoughts, but Lindsay doesn't take it seriously. Lindsay helps him with directions on the interstate and bids him a friendly goodbye as he continues on his way. Jeremy follows the railroad tracks until Dog and Harley intercept him. Harley approaches, masking his fear with aggression, but Jeremy can tell he's afraid. Doug tries to take him back to the hospital, but Jeremy wishes to return home instead. Doug offers to take him back to the shelter after the doctors assess him, but Jeremy says that the shelter is not his own. Doug then puts his foot down and makes Jeremy ride the car. As he's getting in, Jeremy divulges that he dislikes hospitals because the worst day he can remember isn't one. Dog asks what day that was, and Jeremy replies it was the day he was born. Eventually, Jeremy is called to a meeting with the State Board of Education along with Jesse and Donald. The head of the board, Dr. Stripler, asks if he's ever listened to the radio or watched television. Apart from his knowledge gained from books, Donald correctly guesses that he couldn't have, and demonstrates how electrical devices malfunction around Jeremy. Similarly, Jeremy is distressed by electrical devices. Dr. Stripler then says his IQ results were off the charts and that they don't even have a classification for it yet. Sensing Jeremy's discomfort, Jesse tells him that the board is in a position to help. Jeremy asks if they can help him return home, but Jesse regretfully tells him no. As the bank now owns his house, Dr. Stripler attempts to ask more questions about his scores, but the angry Jeremy tells him he knows they only want to prove that he cheated on the test to make sense of his scores. Lights flicker in the room and wristwatches go haywire as Jeremy tells Dr. Stripler that he's only interested in going home. Soon the power shuts down and Jeremy walks out, passing through the halls. Metal locks in the lockers appear to be magnetized as he walks by, seething in rage. Eventually, Dog and Harley take the kids out camping, while the others are socializing by the bonfire. Jeremy sits on his own, away from everybody. Dog wakes up to him, telling him Jesse only wants to help. A clap of thunder rumbles and Jeremy appears concerned, so Dog assures him that the storm is far away. However, Jeremy tells him that he can feel thunderstorms inside him, and lightning is drawn to him. Jeremy's grandmother told him that the lightning was God, and that God took Jeremy's mother when she was struck by lightning while pregnant with him. Dog asks if that's what his grandparents told him, but Jeremy only tells him that he remembers it happening and leaves. The next morning, Jeremy walks deep into the woods and finds a skink crawling nearby. Jeremy places a hand on the ground and more skinks appear, seemingly drawn to him. Jeremy picks one up to observe closer, but the others suddenly scramble away. Jeremy calls out to John and Mitch, who are hiding behind the trees, trailing him. Jeremy notices John's gun and John aims it at him. John continues taunting Jeremy, but Mitch, realizing John could actually fire, attempts to talk some sense into him. Suddenly, a shot goes off in the distance, and the three of them run off to its source. The gunshot came from Harley, who was boasting about his hunting skills while a doe was dying on the ground. But Jeremy feels its pain, so he lays a hand on the deer, and when Harley comes to shove him away, Jeremy clamps his other hand on Harley's wrist. The doe's pain travels through Jeremy, reaching Harley, and with every twitch of the dying deer, Harley experiences its suffering and is soon overcome by it. The other kids panic around them, and John orders Jeremy to let go at gunpoint. Mitch raises the barrel as John fires, and Jeremy lets go. Harley crawls away, screaming, and it takes several boys to hold him down. The deer finally passes away and leaves Jeremy crying as everyone else stares. Back at the shelter, Jesse and Dog ask Jeremy what happened as the others accuse him of attacking Harley. Jeremy only tells him that Harley wasn't seeing what he was doing, so he opened him up and let him see. Dog is then called away, and when he leaves, Jeremy vehemently tells Jesse that he wants to go home. Jesse tries to appease him, but the enraged Jeremy calls her out on pretending to be his friend. Glass frames shatter as Jeremy tells her a friend doesn't lock another up or take them away from home. Lights erupt and the glass panel on her office door bursts. Jeremy walks out, leaving Jesse shocked. Meanwhile, Dog gets home where the doctor tells him Emma is hanging on through the worst pain in her life and suggests taking her back to the hospital. Dog declines as she expresses her wish to be home when she could still speak. The doctor urges Dog to let her go, and Dog thinks it over. That evening, Donald finds Jeremy alone and talks to him about the incident in class. He says that when he touched Jeremy, something happened that gave him the vitality to do the things he hadn't been able to do in a while. Donald tells him about Einstein's theory that if humans were to maximize their brain's capacity, they would be pure energy. Donald then theorizes that something might have happened to Jeremy that made him closer to that energy than anyone ever. Jeremy is uninterested, so Donald goes on to say that Jeremy might have a mind that humans won't evolve for a long time, that he is the future that's here right now. Donald then offers a hand in friendship, and when Jeremy accepted, he plays a trick making Donald's hair stand on end at will. Jeremy slowly opens up about his grandparents who are afraid to touch him, and Donald sympathizes, touching Jeremy's cheek and caressing his head while Jeremy breaks down. The next day, Dog visits Harley after learning that he got rid of his guns and backed out of a marksman that he was passionate about. He worries that Harley might not be able to do his duty as a cop anymore as he refuses to carry a firearm. Harley regretfully explains that when Jeremy touched the deer and then him that day in the woods, he felt the animal dying. He couldn't explain it. But now, whenever he tries to hold the gun, he remembers that feeling and is traumatized by it. That evening, Dog asks Jeremy to help him communicate with Emma. They go to his house and she stirs in her sleeps when Jeremy touches her. Jeremy tells Doug she knows he's here, so Doug takes her hand and communicates with her through Jeremy. She wants Doug to remember the both of them playing in the snow with Steven and losing her wedding ring during a snowball fight. Doug continues the story of him and Steven digging through the snow all afternoon looking for it. Emma begins crying and Jeremy says she wants Doug to open the silver box Steven left days before. Doug opens it up and finds the ring inside. Emma, through Jeremy, says Steven found it in the old house and knew that it was time to come home. She adds that she believes in miracles now and that Doug should too. Emma calls Jeremy an angel that has come to take her home, but she won't leave this world until Doug and Steven reconcile. Doug puts her ring back on her finger as she requests, and Jeremy touches Doug's hand, letting him hear Emma before she passes away. Shortly, Steven arrives and Doug meets him on the porch, wrapping him in a tight embrace. Days after, Jeremy meets Lindsay at the fair and tells her people are wondering if he killed Doug's wife. Lindsay dismisses them and asks what people are like inside, to which Jeremy says most people feel separated from everything. Although they are part of everyone and everything, they are separated inside. Lindsay doesn't believe it at first, but Jeremy explains that like his grandparents, she has a spot in her mind that she can't see past, making her feel separated. They touch hands and for a brief moment share each other's thoughts and feelings. Lindsay becomes privy to Jeremy's pain stemming from his father's abandonment, so he breaks off the connection. Jeremy asks if Lindsay thinks he's ugly like his father did, but Lindsay says he has the most beautiful face she's ever seen and kisses him. Jeremy leans in for another kiss and they do it again. However, Lindsay's father sees them and gets angry, manhandling Jeremy as he berates him. Jesse comes in time before he hurts Jeremy. He then takes Lindsay away after threatening Jesse with a lawsuit. Distraught, Jeremy packs his things. Frustrated, Jeremy packs his things and leaves to return to the farm. Before he leaves, he hears the boys playing basketball in the gym and goes inside to watch, but Jeremy is distracted by a boy washing himself. John sees Jeremy and accuses him of peeing. John taunts him once again by taking his hat and calling him names. Jeremy reaches for the hat, but John blocks him. And when he does, Jeremy gets access to John's repressed memories of his stepfather beating him up when he was younger. Enraged, John pushes Jeremy against the wall and threatens to kill him. Just then, thunder rumbles, and sensing Jeremy's fear, John and the others take him outside and rips his clothes off. John ridicules his pale skin and pushes him onto a muddy puddle. John continues to insult Jeremy to the point where he's so riled up that he unleashes a strong force, sending everyone flying backward. Rain starts to pour and the others get up except John. Mitch checks up on him and discovers that his heart has stopped beating. Jeremy puts his clothes back on, lays his hand on John's chest and defibrillates him several times until he is revived. Mitch then helps him get away and Jeremy stowaways on a truck heading to the farm. Jeremy reaches their old house and finds that everything has been taken away. Jessie arrives shortly after and finds Jeremy in the empty cellar. She consoles Jeremy, promising him that she'll find a place fit for someone as beautiful as him, and wraps him in an embrace. Donald also arrives, ready to take them both away. Just as they are leaving, Doug and Harley arrive to arrest Jeremy. Jesse and Donald talk some sense into Doug to let him go, but Harley insists on taking Jeremy. As a thunderstorm approaches, Jeremy is drawn to walk into the fields. He tells Doug that his wife didn't go someplace because he felt her go out everywhere. Donald quotes Einstein, but Jesse smiles at Jeremy sadly before he rushes to the middle on the field. Harley gives chase, and they all run after Jeremy. As he is running, a bolt of lightning strikes Jeremy in the chest and continues to feed him energy. Soon, balls of energy form on Jeremy's limbs, and he disappears in a blinding flash of light. The four are left in shock as Jeremy finally attains freedom. If you have received value in this video, you know what to do. Thank you for your time and thanks for listening.